you're very welcome to Mind Blowing 10. I'm Paul Gill.
And I'm Siobhan Leijen.
And in this podcast today, we're going to be talking about the law of reverse effect. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the example that's usually cited is if you are in a room and there's a tap and it's dripping, or if you're in the States, it's a faucet. I think that's a French word, isn't it? It probably came from whatever. Anyway, so if it's dripping, and you try to tune that out, you're trying to not give it any attention. But the more you try to tune it out, the more it's kind of gone into your head, and it kind of just gets to you. So the law of reverse effect is that when you try not to do something, not to think of something, not to let it, the more it gets in there in the first place. And a dripping tap can drive you mad. It was used actually as torture. I think it was in Vietnam, where they used to just like drop in somebody's head. It's either in Vietnam or World War II or whatever. And it will drive you insane. So listening to a dripping tap will just get to you. But if you look at the law of reverse effect in a kind of a wider context, if me or you were to go out on the street and ask people, what do you want in life? More often than not, people go, I don't want to be unemployed. I don't want to be ill. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. They'll give you the don'ts.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're actually inviting into the life or attracting into the life that what they don't want, the negativity, the stuff that they're trying to push away.
Yeah.
They're actually drawing it.
By thinking about it.
By thinking about
that all the time. So if you're constantly thinking about what you don't want, well, then the universe is just going to give you more of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that is the law of attraction. You know, they talk about that in The Secret. Bob Proctor does a lot of work about you know, how you view yourself and view the world around you and all of that kind of thing and what you bring into your life. But I think this is why men are so good at selective hearing.
Selective hearing? What do you mean?
Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Like
what?
He just hears whatever he wants to hear, like, you know.
That's not a male thing. That's not a male trait.
Female thing.
Give me an example.
honey, are you washing the dishes? No answer, no response.
Yeah, because he's looking at telly.
Yeah.
Well, obviously he's not washing the dishes. You're asking him a question like, are you washing the dishes? It's a stupid question. Obviously he isn't. He's watching telly. What you're actually trying to say is, will you wash the dishes, or I want you to wash the dishes?
Like a cup of tea. Oh yeah, definitely. I love a cup of tea. And you know, definitely, love that.
Yeah. But I don't think that's a male trait exclusively.
Okay.
I think that's in both sexes.
What do you think, actually? Just give a little comment down below. Let us know what you think.
It's definitely in both sexes.
Right.
Because a woman shopping, clothes shopping.
Right.
Men hate it when women bring them clothes shopping. And I often think that clothes shops should have things like creche for men, adult men, and just spend time there, you know, doing stuff rather than being traipsing around after. What do you think? It's lovely, yeah. What do you think? It's lovely, yeah. Yeah, it's lovely, yeah. Do you prefer to the first one? Yeah, it's lovely, yeah. Yeah. What was the first one again? You've no interest.
Oh my God.
Absolutely no interest because men, when you see them in the shop, men will go in and they can go, I want a pair of trousers. There's a pair of trousers. I'm buying that pair of trousers.
Does it fit
and
me?
I come home.
Great.
Oh, does it fit me? Well, that's irrelevant.
And
the last time I bought a pair of trousers was size 34. That was 10 years ago.
That'll do me.
I'll fit it. It'll be grand. And if it's the wrong size for herself, can bring it back.
Oh Jesus.
And so but used to drive me mad was where the woman would go to a shop and she'd be going through that, you know, what do you think of that? What do you think of that? And she'd find something, I think that's lovely. And look at the price it would get one night. Oh, yeah, I'll buy it for yourself. You deserve it. I'm just kind of saying that just to get out of there.
Yeah.
She kind of goes, do you know what? I didn't check out this other shop. And she'd leave that back and she'd go and check out this other shop. And she'll find the same garment or whatever compared to price or whatever and kind of go, oh, I don't know if I want it now. And I'm going, just buy the bloody thing in some shop. Just whatever. And she'll, I didn't try this other shop, and she'll go and see something else. And now she's got this conflict going on. Should she buy the same article in that shop, this shop, or a different one in the other shop?
Yeah.
And then that's just driven nuts. Because men tend to be more decisive, straight in, get that, bring it home. Now, some women are like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very decisive. Like, I don't like shopping. I don't like going into shops. If it takes more than an hour, I'm out. I'm like, okay, that's it. Yeah.
What are you doing in a shop for an hour?
Tops. If I have to look for outfits or something like that, I'll spend a maximum of an hour looking for something. And if I can't find what I'm looking for, I'm gone.
An hour.
I have a sister who will spend the entire day trawling through rails, and she friggin' loves it. She mightn't buy anything all day. I couldn't. That's torture to me. Torture. Whereas my husband, then, on the other hand, he doesn't like shopping either, but he takes ages to make decisions.
Right.
You know, and that's where I think the male and the female kind of balance each other out a little bit. He will look at the manual of everything, and
well, if it's hardware, if
if
it's hardware store or something for cars or whatever, that's different.
Well, he'll look at all the reviews.
Yeah.
It'll take a month before he decides what he's going to actually buy. You know, for me, I'm like, we need a new kettle, right? Let's have a look. Which is the nicest looking one? That's grand.
Yeah, but it depends on how much you're going to spend as well. If you're buying a kettle, it's different from buying a house. Like,
well,
you would look, you would do more research. Whereas kettle is a kettle.
Yeah.
You know, does
it's
it boil?
A big thing.
I don't care what color it is. I don't care what make it is.
Well, he would care. Well,
right.
He wouldn't care maybe so much about the look of it, but he'd be watching to see, well, which is the most reliable one. He'd be looking at, he'd read all the reviews about it and whatever else. At the moment, we're trying to buy a car.
Right.
So this is the crack. Oh my God. Yeah. We finally narrowed it down after about 3 months.
Going back to the law of reverse effect, then, do you know what it is that you want rather than what you don't want? You don't want one that breaks down.
Yes.
You don't want one that's
exactly it.
High mileage. You don't want one that's, but I don't know, you're looking at diesels, hybrids, electrics.
Diesels. I wish I could afford a second hybrid. I can't.
Right. Okay. But if you like and subscribe, you might. The law of reverse effect comes into vogue when you worry, because fear is such a dominant emotion in our psyches that it tends to rule the roost, and you don't engage in logical, rational thinking when you're in that headspace where you're fearful.
Yeah,
you're anxious, you're clutching at straws, you just kind of go with whatever notion pops into your head. So it's important to note that if you do suffer from anxiety is fear-based thinking. It's there for a reason. You've learned to be that way. Your mind has chosen to be that way, but you are actually making your situation worse through thinking about what it is that you're anxious about.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people distract themselves with really busy jobs or constantly going, you know. I definitely would have used that. Like, I would have attracted that into my life, I would say. Would you say you've done the same thing in your past careers and things?
I would say that you can have something in your life as an antidote. Sometimes it's alcohol. Sometimes it's drugs, food. Sometimes it's exercise. So you need that. Some people do need to be busy, and it's not something that necessarily needs to be cured. I know lots of busy people who just like to be busy, and it gives them a sense of purpose, achievement,
and they're happy.
But there's the other person who likes to be busy because they don't want to go home. And you kind of go, what's so unpalatable about home that you don't want? What is it that you're staying away from? It's not that they love their job. It's just that they don't want to be at home.
And they're just not happy there. And a lot of people kind of go, and this is like this, the conscious and the unconscious then, isn't it? Because sometimes you can stay away from home because I'm so busy at work, like I don't have time to, you know, eat or, you know, take a break, or I can't ever get home on time because I'm so busy and I have so much work to do. So you're unconsciously unaware, I suppose, really, of the fact that you just don't want to go home. Like maybe your marriage is in tatters, or the kids are at a stage in life that you're not able to cope with. Maybe they're going bananas all the time, or, you know, it's just becomes too difficult for you, and you're avoiding things then, aren't you? Work.
And all of these anxieties and all of these issues can be dealt with, and this is the thing. If you distract yourself, that's a strategy that works. But there's consequences to that strategy, and the consequences are more worry and more unhappiness. Kind of does get you through the week, but it's not long term. It's not a solution. And I would say neither is medication. Even though medication has its place, long term it's not the solution. The solution is where you go and you work through what it is that you need to do. You don't always have to go to a therapist. It's a good friend, best friend. Sit down, talk to somebody, because again, when you get this internal dialogue out of your head and throw it out in front of somebody, like going back to a client that I had where she had all these different opinions in her head. When she got them all out and was saying this, she's got, I can't believe I've actually just said that. Part of me has actually said that. I know it's stupid, and I know I've said it. And I go, because it's an opinion, an emotional opinion in your psyche that holds sway over you.
Yeah.
And when you unmask that opinion, get it out and kind of go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Why is it there? And you find that there is a valid reason why it's there, something that happened in your past. And then you go back and you change how you feel about that. And there's several techniques you can use to do that.
Yeah.
When you change the feeling around the past, it changes everything. It's like, to me, it's like time traveling.
Yeah.
You know, and I do say sometimes to people just in conversation, if you could time travel back to another time in your life, where would you go to? What age would you go to? There's a question. I'm putting you on the spot now.
Okay, well, I would probably go back to my mid-20s. That was probably my favorite time in my life, because I was married. I was just pregnant with my first child. It was probably the happiest time in my life, I'd say.
Okay.
I think as a, because I've always wanted to be a mother. I love children and all that kind of thing. So, and we had been trying to have a child for a couple of years before I actually got pregnant. So when I was pregnant with me, and the sickness and everything had passed, that was definitely the happiest time of my life, because I felt like I had fulfilled my purpose.
Yeah.
There was a kind of a nature thing going on there as well, I think, for me, and it just made me feel very fulfilled and very happy.
Wow.
Yeah. And then the home I was living in, I loved it. I was sitting on I can see myself and go back there, sitting at the table, just having a cup of tea and just looking out at a lovely spring day. It's like that out there. Just nice, going out with the lovely lawns. That's nice. Breathing in the fresh air and that kind of.
What advice would you give to yourself if you went back?
I don't know, actually, what advice I'd give myself, because I was actually just most content that time in my life.
Yeah, but when I say advice, I don't mean that you need to correct yourself on something.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Like how I picked that up.
Yeah. To me, if I was to go back, there's a couple of times I go back to, but I would always have said when I was 17. 17 was a very turbulent year in my life.
Yeah.
Massive highs and lows.
Yeah.
Done lots of things. I was an abundance of energy.
Oh, there's a great exercise people can do, actually. Can we give it to them?
Yeah, go on.
There's a letter you can write to yourself like 5 years in the future, and just like talking to yourself about how great your life is now and how you have everything you have. It's an amazing little exercise to do, actually, and I regularly give it to my clients to help them move forward and to know and to learn more about what they actually want out of life. So you guys could do this. Sorry.
Okay, so you actually write it to yourself, and then what do? You open it in 5 years' time and see.
Yeah, see, did you achieve all of that?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, you do. Nearly all the things that you wrote in that letter have manifested.
Yeah.
And the worries and concerns that you have now are just, you've completely forgotten about them in 5 years' time. Now, you can do it in a year. Or
you can do it, and I know a coach friend of mine that would recommend that to people to do. Write a letter to yourself 3 months, saying that in 3 months' time, I said I was going to do this, this, and this, and these are the consequences of me having done that.
Yeah. This is what I've achieved.
And maybe give that letter to somebody and ask them to post it back to you in 3 months' time.
In 3 months' time. Or you can do a thing in email as well, where you can delay the sending. Send it back to yourself.
Yeah.
It's class. You get a fucking email from yourself like 5 years in the future. It's super weird. Yeah, it's class. It's like Terminator stuff.
It is. I use this technique where I do bring people from their present now back to a time in their life.
Oh yeah, this is really interesting, actually.
And I get them to meet their younger self, whatever situation they encounter. Say if somebody's coming to me with anxiety, I get them to connect with that anxiety. Anxiety is experienced in the body. It's thought about in the head, but it's experienced in the body. I get them to give it a location, maybe stomach, and I'll ask them what color is it. They go black. What texture has it? It's rough, sharp feeling. And I get them to breathe into that feeling, and then link and connect that feeling, go back to the very first time they can ever remember having that feeling. And people say, well, how do you know it's the very first time? It doesn't have to be the very first time. Usually it is, but the very first time you can remember.
Yeah.
And it's usually right back, and they will find themselves in a memory, a bad memory, something bad is happening or whatever. They're so much younger, or whatever. I get them to pause that and say, now you, from the present, you come back through time, and now you're there as an adult self, and you're there maybe as a child self. What do you do to change this experience? And when they realize, actually, okay, well, I can do anything, physical, verbally. You even have to decide, do you want to punch somebody's head or douse them and power hose them, but
maybe give someone a hug,
maybe, or set them on fire. But they get satisfaction. This is the thing, too. And this is why political correctness irks me so much sometimes. That if somebody's been maybe sexually abused
Yeah.
or something violent has happened to them as a child, they didn't have any power.
Yeah.
Now as an adult, they can go, oh, if I could just go back and get that, whatever.
Stab
And I
them
said,
in the
you
face.
are actually back there now. Do what you want in the privacy
Yeah.
of your own mind, whatever you need to get satisfaction. Because a big part of us as human beings is justice
Yeah.
and revenge. And I think a lot of people, if they've suffered sexual abuse or whatever, don't get justice.
No.
Or people who've been raped,
Oh my God,
they
it's
can't
so
even
different.
be. They're like a witness in their own case. It's a
Yeah.
very peculiar
You are, yeah.
way
Because I remember reporting being raped years and years ago, and you know, it never went. The DPD rejected because there wasn't enough evidence, you know, to bring it to court, and I felt like I lost. You
Yeah.
know, so the person who raped me got away with that.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say to people that come to me, yes, you know, there's reporting in TUSA and all that kind of thing that we have to do. But it's your choice at the end of the day whether you report that or not. You know, nobody should force you or make you report it or do anything of the sort. That has to be your choice. And I always explain that there is a big difference between justice and the law.
Yeah.
They're two completely different things.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even about fairness.
It's not. No.
So when you do a session like the one I've described in hypnosis, you get satisfaction in your mind. I get them, like, if they do something violent towards the perpetrator, the crime, I say, now let them off. They're not going to occupy any more space in your head. They're done. Yeah. And then I get them to hug their younger selves or whatever. And sometimes I'll have them imagine that a third person joins them, a person that's older than what they are now, maybe 10 years. So that's you from the future coming back, and now your future self reassures you and tells you you're going that way. There's a good future ahead of you. And it gets them to change their perspective, to come out of that and they feel different. They feel they've got justice, they feel they've done something, and they can let it go.
Oh, that's actually a lovely little journey in therapy, isn't it?
It is.
I use that quite frequently as well, where you see your younger self, and you know, you're seeing from your adult self is looking at your younger self, and you know, what does this boy or this girl need? Does she need love? Does she need a hug? Does she need to be told she's safe or she's going to be okay? Because what a lot of us do when we have, you know, had really troubled childhoods is we try to block out the child, but the child is in you. You know, this is what therapists talk about, the inner child work.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but it's absolutely true.
It is a cliche, but
child is still there, current.
It's still there, you know. Exactly,
thinking.
And it needs to be nurtured and loved and cared for. And
yeah, and your teenage self is still there, and your younger adolescent self, whatever. You've all these different versions of you. You haven't just arrived at where you are now as one person.
Yeah.
And I like this idea that, you know, they say our liver regenerates. I think it's every 4 months. You have an entirely new liver.
Indeed.
And the other cells regenerate as well, and the brain regenerates. So that the person you are now on a cellular level is not the person you were. You're a completely different being.
Yeah.
But your mind can be a completely different mind as well.
I always find it really fascinating how such a small minority of people in the world are hugely successful. Now, success is different for everybody, of course. You know, for me, definitely, I would attach my success to maybe, you know, the car I drive or something like that. I don't know whether that's because my dad was a mechanic and I grew up with cars.
Oh, yeah, so cars are
loving cars.
You
know, and then so if I'm driving something that isn't up to it isn't something that I love or like, I feel less accomplished.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas I know loads of people who are very well off financially and they don't drive big fancy cars or they don't bother with that kind of thing. That's not important to them, you know?
Yeah. I heard of a fellow even yesterday who's a billionaire, and he's living in a modest house.
Yeah.
Down the country somewhere. He owns loads of property in the States and other places, whatever.
Yeah.
But he just sees that as a means to make money. He's just perfectly happy in this average house.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
That's what they say, actually. I was looking at a piece of research in Ireland in particular, and the large majority of millionaires live in modest homes. Yeah. But I think it's because they live in the modest home and they don't go mad buying these massive mansions or building these huge houses.
And sometimes some of them have a poverty complex.
Yeah.
I do know some people. And I asked one person.
With the arse falling out of their trousers.
I asked the guy, I said, if you stopped working now, how long would it be before you actually would say that you are in poverty? And he said, about 15 years. I said, there you go. So if you sat in your hands for 15 years and in 15 years' time, you would be destitute.
Mm.
And yet you've this poverty complex that you need to go now. And I said, you're not actually enjoying the journey of what you're doing.
But then do you not think like at some stage you're going to get elderly and you're not going to be able to continue to keep going? Like, for example, you know, my mom, right?
Yeah.
I'll use her as an example, but she was a fantastic seamstress. She used to make beautiful dresses and curtains and all those kind of things. But she got rheumatoid arthritis in her fingers and couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I mean, there wouldn't be huge money in that kind of a trade, unless you're working for the celebrities and you're Vera Wang or someone like that. But if you're, you know, an ordinary Joe Soap or, you know, an ordinary person, Jane Doe, and you're doing that kind of work, there's very small money in it.
Yeah.
Particularly for the length of time. So when she separated from my dad, she actually had nothing. She had no money. She had nothing. And she didn't have the ability to work. She was in her 70s or late 70s at this stage. Mad story.
Yeah.
Please again. But definitely. And her fingers failed her.
Yeah.
So what did she do then?
I don't know. I was just thinking when you were talking about that, somebody like Bob Proctor.
Yeah.
I don't know what age Bob was. Was he 80 something?
He was in his 80s, 86 or something
when
like
he
that.
died.
Passed away.
Yeah. Still productive, still helping people.
Yeah. I know. He
And
was amazing.
I'd like to think I'd be like that.
Yeah. Oh God. See, it's different for us though, because if you're in the talk therapy thing, unless you lose your voice completely or something happens to it, you can keep going. Or unless you lose your hearing, you know, you can still hear people and listen to them. So I think retirement for us is going to be very different. We can continue to work for as long as we want, you know.
Yeah, but you can help us by liking and subscribing.
Definitely. Yeah. Because this is actually the kind of work we really want to be doing.
Yeah.
This is our favorite thing.
Yeah. And we've come to the end of yet another podcast. As I said, like, subscribe us, comment down below, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. See you again.